Grace, mercy, and peace be to you from God our Father and from our Lord and from our Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. So how do you feel about growing up? Probably depending upon the day, how you're feeling, how many responsibilities you have, how your childhood was. You're going to get different answers to that question depending on who you talk to. Or even like just how you're feeling that day, really. Just, how do I feel about growing up? Ugh. How do you feel about growing up? It's great, right? Growing up is an important thing. It just happens, right? I mean, if you're alive, you grow up, right? You start off as a child, and you're totally dependent upon your parents. And then, as you grow, you gain an ability, and suddenly you can do more things, and more things, and more things, until finally you get to a place where you can live independent of your parents. And then you fly the coop. You're off on your own. You can live an independent life. And then, curiously enough, by God's grace, the process can somewhat repeat, only now, different perspective. Because with a child, suddenly, you're the parent. And now you're the one who's providing for the child. You're the one who needs to make sure that everything that the child needs is there. And you're starting to watch your child do more and more things, gain more and more independence. It's this cycle that seems to continue on and on. Well, what if I told you that Jesus never wants us to grow up? Interesting. Some of you went, ooh, really? That sounds great. Others of you were like, that sounds so good. Jesus never wants us to grow up. He wants us to rediscover childhood. Now, when I say that Jesus never wants us to grow up, I want to make sure we understand what we're talking about. I'm not talking about the process that I described of growing through childhood and adolescence and into adulthood. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about what it's like to be in relationship with God, regardless of our age. When we look at our relationship to God, God never wants us to grow up. Take a look at again, right here in our lesson for today from the Gospel. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Interesting question, right? He called a little child and had him stand among them. And he said, "I tell you the truth. Unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven." So to humble yourself like a child. Now, usually when we read this verse and we think about becoming childlike, we usually make certain associations where we'll say, well, what's a child like? A child is like, you think of a child and, they're just excited about life, right? They're just excited. Just about everything gets hit with some level of enthusiasm that we as adults look at as just extreme. Because we don't have that kind of energy, right? And when we look at children, there's a sense of kind of awe, like the things that they're experiencing are all brand new. There's kind of an innocence, right? There's an innocence because they haven't experienced all of the things of the world that we know of. I mean, we can think of all of the terrible, gross things in the world, and the little children, they haven't experienced that yet. They haven't seen it, and so there's an innocence, right? And so when we think of being childlike, often what we'll do is we'll think of, all right, well, what kind of adjustments do I have to make to my life to be more childlike? Okay, well, I just need to have a little more energy, right? And maybe a little more vim and vigor when it comes to church stuff. Maybe I'll just be more excited about going to church on Sunday. Okay, that's the first one. And the world around me. What about the world? Well, you know what? God really did make a pretty world. I need to stop and smell the roses more. So that's what I'll do. I'll just make sure that I don't just rush through life and I'll just stop and stand in awe of God's creation more. That'll work. And the innocence thing, that's tough. Innocence. Maybe I'll just kind of put my blinders on every once in a know, and just pretend like the bad stuff in the world doesn't happen. And maybe I'll even make myself look innocent too. That'll work. That'll work. I'll just try to look more innocent to other people, and then that'll be more childlike. Now, I mean, while the energy and the appreciation for God's creation and the innocence, I mean, those are all good things. I think what Jesus is asking us to be is a lot more fundamental, a lot deeper than that. I really think that what Jesus is showing us is that we have to fundamentally think differently about who we are in relationship with God, and then what that looks like as we live our lives. We are totally dependent upon God. Let me demonstrate this. Let me try this. Follow with me here. Pretend you're all one-year-olds. Okay? Now I know this is not easy because you can't just go back and remember, oh yeah, what was it like when I was a 1-year-old? You can't do that because none of us remember being one, okay? So just play along, okay? You're a 1-year-old, all right? What's life like as a 1-year-old? Okay, well as a 1-year-old, you know where the food is kept. You know where the water comes out. You can see it. You know that's where it is, but you can't get to it. You can't get to it. You have to depend on a parent to do that for you. As a 1-year-old, you have all of these things that you want in life. If you want food, you cry. If you want a drink, you cry. If you're discontent with life in general, you cry. If you filled your pants, you cry. Right? I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. You can't even really say what you want. You don't have words yet. And the frustrating thing is, in my experience with 1-year-olds, they kind of understand what the parents say, but the parent can't understand what the kid says. And so the kid knows when the parent's barking up the wrong tree and trying to give them something to eat when they really need a diaper change or something. There's this total dependence upon the parent. As a child, you want to move, right? At that 1-year-old stage, they see a world around them and they want to move, right? And some of them are able to crawl, some of them even, especially if they're from my family, they're able to walk, okay? And if you've got a 1-year-old who can walk, watch out, right? Because who knows what that next step is going to bring. The kid doesn't know. Kids just ooh, this is fun. I can put my foot out and I move, right? But they don't know. They don't know what's going to happen when that next foot comes down. I mean, they could land on solid ground and take off. They could find themselves tumbling downstairs. They could find themselves out in front of a moving vehicle. Right? They don't know. They have no clue. All they know is that, hey, cool, I can do this. And so they're completely dependent upon their parents then to keep an eye on them, to make sure they're safe. And of course, 1-year-olds are so cute. And they only stay one for so long. And everybody wants to hold the 1-year-old, right? Right? You know what I'm talking about. You got that feeling oh, the 1-year-old. I know. Oh, right here. But hey, imagine being the 1-year-old, right? You can pass between all these people. Who are these people? I mean, you're not my mom. You're not my dad. What are you going to do with me? Right? There's actually this trust that the parents are actually handing you off to somebody who is going to treat you okay. They're not just going to walk off with you and do who knows what with you, right? So again, you're totally dependent upon your parents to keep you safe. So how do you feel about being a 1-year-old? Yeah, I think most of us are I don't like it. That's no fun. Now, it's interesting that we have this reaction, right? Because it's only scary to be a 1-year-old if you're on your own. Think about it. A 1-year-old on their own, yeah, that's scary, okay? Because you don't have your parents to do all these things for you. But that's not really what I described, was it? What I described is a 1-year-old who is receiving from his parents all the things that he needs. And if you have responsible parents who are actually taking care of you, being a 1-year-old is awesome. I mean, think about it. It's everything. You got everything you need right there. You don't have to work. You don't have to do anything. I mean, the only thing that, really, the inconvenient thing is like not talking thing and, having to have your diaper changed. That's kind of bad. But really, being a 1-year-old is awesome. And if you've got parents who love you and care for you and keeping you safe and all those things, it's better than awesome. I mean, this is about as good as it gets. Being a 1-year-old. But I know this reaction that's going on inside us is kind of this tug of war going on, where we're like, but if I'm like a 1-year-old, then that means I'm not in control. I'm not in control. That means it seems like I'm not providing for myself. And you know what? I provide for myself. I do this and I do this and I work and I work hard on doing these things and that stuff and that makes sure that everything that we have is there. All of these things in life, they depend upon me. It's the American way, folks, right? It's the American way that says, work hard, do everything that you can do, build your life around you, and then you can build this dependency so that everybody needs you, right? Is that the way it really is? Is that the way it really is? I hate to say it, but, I hear all of these things that we say we do, right? All of these things places we say we're so responsible for the things that are happening. And I have to liken it to that 1-year-old again. Like a 1-year-old who suddenly discovers that they can put 2 blocks on top of each other. And they've just manipulated their world. And suddenly 2 blocks that were here are now 2 blocks like this. And they go, wow, I am so powerful. Right? That's really what it is. Because think about it. I mean, really, just think about it. All of these things that we do that we think are so important that provide for ourselves, what are those things dependent upon? I mean, just think of like, being able to work. Being able to work. Think of all of the things that God has to do first before you are even capable of making a dime. All the things that have to happen in your just creation-wise, your body, arms, legs, eyes, ears, mind, all of the things that God has to do. He has to wake you up in the morning, right? I mean, how many of us deserve to wake up in the morning? Really? Seriously, you don't do anything to deserve to wake up in the morning. It just happens. That's why we have Luther's morning prayer, by the way. Like, I love Luther's morning prayer, because it doesn't assume that you're going to wake up in the morning. It says, when you've woken up, you get to say, thank you, God, I didn't die last night. This is cool. I get to live today, and I get to live it for you. That's even better. But let's not even stop there. Let's go all the way back to your birth. Okay? None of us deserve to be born. And the best way I can illustrate that is to think of the millions upon millions of people just like you who didn't get the chance. I'm talking about miscarriages. I'm talking about abortions. Those kids didn't see the other end of the birth canal. You did. Right? It's true. It's true. You don't even deserve to be alive right now, because it could have very easily been you who died in the womb. It's just the way it is, right? So we are all 1-year-olds. I mean, is it true? We are. We are all completely and totally dependent upon God. And that's what Jesus is urging us to be, right? He's urging us to see our lives in a completely different way, where we don't think of ourselves as the ones providing for ourselves, but we always trace it back to the one who gives us the life, the breath, the strength, the energy, the skills, the abilities to do the things that we can in this world. And I'm not telling you not to be responsible or work or to do the things that you need to do. Everybody's got responsibilities, right? And kids, when you grow up, you're going to get them too. But it's not that we think that we're in control. When Jesus urges us to be like children, he urges us to realize our total dependence upon God. And when we have that dependence upon God, all that other stuff that we like comes along with it. There's a certain innocence that comes with just depending on God, right? Because we don't come and assume that the things that we work for are actually going to do anything. We know that the things that happen, the good things that happen in our lives, we can always trace it back to God. And if he doesn't want to give it to us, he won't. Regardless of our effort. So there's a certain innocence, right? Hey, good stuff happened. Praise God. Hey, bad stuff's about to happen. Too bad. Praise God. Right? I mean, it's kind of the childlike thing. Almost as if it's just like God's going to provide regardless. Right? This is what he does. He provides for us. You know what that awe and wonder part of being a child? Think of how much greater that is when we constantly live in this realization that we're dependent upon him for everything. When we open our eyes and see the world that God has made. When we open our eyes and just see the way he's made us. Or the way he's made other people. Wow. If we think it's about us, I'm better than them. Right? But if it's all about God, you can stand in awe and wonder. And what about that enthusiasm? Oh yeah, I mean the enthusiasm goes up. I hope, check me on this, I hope tomorrow morning, by the grace of God, should your eyes open, you're going to have a little bigger smile on your face. And maybe just an ounce more excitement. Because you realized, God did that. God's giving me today. God's giving me the breath in my lungs. What's God got for me today? It's Monday morning, right? What's God got for me today? What's he going to do through me today? Because for some reason, he gave me life today. So he's got to do something through me. So here we go, right? You get up and you start your routine and with an expectation that God's going to do something because he didn't wake you up for nothing. Right? It's childlike, isn't it? And the cares of this world, while we still have them, we just put them all into his lap. He's the one who's got control anyway. And then as he gives us the ability to deal with things, we deal with it. Now you may have noticed something to this point in my sermon. I haven't really mentioned Jesus yet. Right? We haven't even gotten to Jesus yet. There's a reason for that. There's a very good reason for that. Because if you're not childlike, notice what he says in the text. Unless you turn or change and become like a child, you don't enter the kingdom of heaven. So what I'm talking to you about is a prerequisite. It's not like something you add to your life. It's a prerequisite for being in the kingdom. So I got to talk about this first. Because if we think we have all the control, if we think we don't need God, then Jesus is a sideshow and we're the main event. And Jesus is kind of like an insurance policy, right? That says, hey, I've got this life taken care of, I'm in control, I'm driving this bus, and just in case I crash this bus, I've got Jesus. How great is that, right? This is my insurance policy, I get to go to heaven anyway. No. To be a child is to realize that Jesus drives the bus. And we don't even get to tell him where to go. Right? That Jesus is the one who gave us life, who came into this world to humble himself as a child. Jesus is the one who is willing to sacrifice him for the sake of his 1-year-olds. I mean, who among us wouldn't die like that for our children? That's what Jesus did. He saw us destroying ourselves. He saw us going over the cliff. He saw us doing things that just were horrible. And so Jesus came out because as a loving parent to die for us. And he gave us something that we couldn't do ourselves. He gave us forgiveness through that death. He destroyed the sin that destroys us. He's given us everything. And the very same God who gives us life today has given us a life that lasts forever. No 1-year-old deserves to turn 2. Think about it. No 1-year-old deserves to turn 2. It was only because that 1-year-old had loving parents who sacrificed to give that child everything they needed so they could grow up and celebrate their 2nd birthday. And so it is with us. We have a God who loves us and gives us everything we need. Not only life, but salvation, forgiveness, the promise of a life that will go on forever. And we've done nothing to deserve it. He just gives it to us. And so I urge you, my brothers and sisters in Christ, my fellow 1-year-olds, be a child. Be a child. When it comes to our God who gives everything to us, be a child and receive from him. And then be childlike. Live a life of total dependence upon God. Trust me, it's awesome. It really is. Because Jesus never wants